waste if we do not manage the transition properly. Beyond our immediate region, Kenya continues to contribute responsibly to global peace and security. As lead nation in the multinational security support mission in Haiti, we stand in solidarity with the Haitian people and their quest for the restoration of security, order, and the rule of law. We are now focused on a coordinated and orderly transition of that mission to the gang suppression force, supported by adequate international financing, strengthened command structures, and a United Nations Support Office, measures essential to consolidate progress and prevent relapse into instability. A lot has been achieved, not as much as we would have wanted, but there is progress that had been achieved that needs to be safeguarded, and then whatever needs to be done should be done. In 2025, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya played an active and constructive role in global efforts to reform development financing, strengthen peace operations, and advance sustainable development in a manner that is inclusive, equitable, and responsive to contemporary realities. At the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development, held in Seville in Spain, Kenya joined the international community in renewing and reviewing progress under the Addis Ababa Action Agenda while confronting emerging global financing constraints. Our engagement underscored the urgent need to reform the global financing architecture to better support domestic resource mobilization, sustainable debt management, and the mobilization of private capital for development. At the same time, Kenya's commitment to global environmental governance was demonstrated during the 7th session of the United Nations Environmental Assembly, held here in Nairobi, where Kenya called for the translation of global declarations, including the outcomes of COP30, into concrete action addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution in ways that are visible in people's lives and protective of future generations. Our leadership in environmental diplomacy also extends to ocean governance. The ratification of the agreement on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction reaffirms our commitment to rules-based multilateralism, ocean sustainability, and the protection of global commons. In June 2026, Kenya will host the 11th Our Oceans Conference under the theme, Our Ocean, Our Heritage, Our Future. This gathering will mobilize global commitment on marine conservation, sustainable fisheries, and climate resilience while showcasing Africa's contribution to ocean action and the blue economy. Kenya's multilateral engagement also encompasses social development. At the World Summit for Social Development held in Doha, Qatar, we reaffirm that poverty eradication, decent work, and social inclusion are inseparable from sustainable development. These principles continue to guide both our domestic policy and our international partnerships. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya remains a firm proponent of a rules-based international order. Amid growing global instability, we reaffirm our commitment to sovereignty and territorial integrity as enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations. As the UN marks its 80th anniversary, the world stands at a critical inflection point with multilateralism under increasing strain. It is our firm belief that a strong United Nations and a steadfast adherence to multilateral principles remains indispensable in addressing the complex and interconnected challenges of our time. We are proud to host the only United Nations headquarters in the Global South and remain committed to providing the political, security, and infrastructural support necessary to expand the UN presence in Kenya. Pangura knows that. She used to send me very long messages. We have this problem, you need to sort out. Now the messages are becoming shorter, but they are still coming. We recognize the United Nations remains one of humanity's greatest collective achievements. Yet persistent funding shortfalls and administrative constraints continue to limit its efficacy and responsiveness. Kenya therefore supports renewed efforts to strengthen and adequately resource the UN system. The defunding of UN agencies weakens multilateral cooperation and diminishes the international community's capacity to respond to conflict, humanitarian crisis, global health threats, and development challenges. At the same time, Africa also marks 2 decades since the Ezulwini Consensus and the Sirte Declaration, through which the continent has spoken in one voice in calling for just and equitable reform of the UN Security Council. Africa's continued exclusion, despite bearing significant share of Security Council's agenda and peacekeeping responsibilities, undermines the legitimacy and effectiveness of the United Nations. Comprehensive reform, including permanent African representation, is essential to the institution's relevance in the 21st century. Excellencies, as I conclude, I commend the diplomatic corps and international organizations represented here for your continued cooperation, your goodwill, and your partnership with Kenya. We truly appreciate, and we don't take it for granted. As we progress in 2026, let us deepen collaboration and ensure that our shared efforts translate into measurable and meaningful outcomes for our peoples and for humanity. Thank you very much for your attention. And as I have always said, I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much. I don't know, just hold on. Yeah, let's take our seats. I am not schooled in matters diplomacy. But I remember, I think it was Chinua Achebe, who, I think there was a church somewhere, somebody was preaching in church. So he was sitting in the congregation. After the sermon, he asked somebody there, are people allowed to ask questions after the sermon? So I don't know whether in diplomacy, are people allowed to ask any clarifications if there is need for any? I don't know. Okay. I can take 1 or 2 clarifications if there is anybody who has something to say with the permission of the diplomats here. There are no consequences for asking any question. Okay, okay. My good friend, and by the way, my good friend from Morocco, we did open also a diplomatic office in Morocco. We opened one in the last, we also opened one in Côte d'Ivoire. We opened one in Haiti. We've opened one in Denmark. We will now be sending somebody to Vatican, and I think we've also opened one in Guangzhou, is it?